A lot of people ask, well, do I need a tune? How can you put a automotive air filter on a boat? Answer is you cannot, you should not. It's dangerous. You want a marine flame arrestor. It'll help quiet that down a little bit, pick up a few extra horsepower and maybe some top end speed, and looks a heck of a lot better as well. Today we're going to be going over the installation steps for our 4-inch mandrel bent intake kit for the Volvo 8.2 GSi engine, as you can see here in the video. If you'd like to purchase your own air intake kit, check the link in the description below the video, and you should see the link that goes directly to Amazon to be able to purchase this kit for your own boat. Today we're going to be installing our high-performance intake kit onto our Volvo Penta 8.2 GSi motor. This is, I think, a 425 or 415 horsepower motor factory. The factory flame arrestor is this guy here. They are not high flow from the factory. They're meant to be compact to fit a number of different applications in different boats and be as compact as possible, get the job done. But they're not high flow by any means. They do a good job at being a flame arrestor and letting in enough air to make the power that the motor needs to. But there's always room for improvement. You can't really install this intake kit unless you have enough space from your factory flame arrestor to the front of the boat. We'll take a look at how many inches worth of room you need, and then it's going to come around this direction here on this boat. If your alternator is somewhere else on your particular engine, you can also swing it that direction. On this one, we're going to come around to this side here. Now, a lot of people ask, well, do I need a tune? If you're on a carbureted engine or on an engine that has basically injectors where the carburetor would be, throttle body injection, then yes, you would need a tune. And personally, I wouldn't recommend putting any sort of aftermarket intake or exhaust kit on a motor that is throttle body injected or has a carburetor. Now, this particular motor is what you would find in any modern boat. It has port injection. That means there's one injector per cylinder, and there are sensors for pressure and air temp that will make slight adjustments to fueling and timing based on what sort of atmospherical pressure there is, air temperature, and airflow. So making a change like adding a captain's call exhaust, which you can see this motor does have, or adding a high-performance intake kit does not require a retune on this particular motor. The other question most people are going to ask is, how can you put a automotive air filter on a boat? Answer is you cannot, you should not. It's dangerous. You want a marine flame arrestor on your boat at all times. It's dangerous to run with a vehicle air filter, paper or a cotton gauze type air filter. The one we use here is a true marine flame arrestor. It's a steel mesh that goes around. There's not any sort of paper material in there or anything that's combustible. This is a true marine flame arrestor. Just happens to look like a high flow automotive air filter because it is a high flow air filter of sorts, but it's a flame arrestor. So let's get started on the installation. Make sure you have all your parts. You're going to have one 4-inch mandrel bent aluminum pipe. It's going to have bead rolls on the ends to make sure everything stays nice and snug and couplers don't slip off. You're going to have 2 T-bolt clamps. These are capable of clamping down pretty tight. And then you're going to have one worm drive clamp. The worm drive clamp is going to go on the lip of the flame arrestor. The T-bolt clamps are going to go on your reinforced high temperature silicone coupler. One side of the coupler is going to attach to your pipe. The other side of the coupler will attach to the throttle body. First thing you want to do is get your factory flame arrestor off. There's a nut on a stud in the middle. Grab your 11 millimeter if you're working with metric sockets, and you should be able to get that off. Now that you've got the nut and the washer off the stud, you should be able to wiggle the flame arrestor until it comes off. You'll notice that there's a rubber lip right around the edge that goes onto the throttle body. Make sure the rubber lip comes off the throttle body. Sometimes it gets stuck on there. That's this guy here. And then all you'll have left is the stud and the throttle body. You'll notice the throttle body inlet is oval. We'll talk about that in a second. The next thing you want to do is grab your reinforced high temperature silicone coupler. The end that goes on the throttle body, you can squish it down into an oval and it will fit perfectly. There's going to be 2 stops on the throttle body, right here and right here at the top, and then you'll have the same on the bottom. Make sure you're pushing your silicone coupler all the way up to those stops, but not over them. Now you want to get your T-bolt clamp on there. It's a little difficult to do with one hand, so I had to put the camera down, but you'll notice that this part here is not flexible. The band that goes around the rest of the clamp is flexible, but this part here is sturdy. It will not bend. So you have an oval throttle body, and you want to make sure to position this firm section of the clamp at around this side where you have the majority of the bend in the throttle body. That way it doesn't try to flatten out at the top of the oval. So make sure you position it about where it is here, and now we're going to go through and tighten it. Now you want to get your T-bolt clamp tightened up. You just spin that lock nut, spin it slowly. Don't use an impact or a drill on anything that has a lock nut. You'll ruin the lock nut. So do it by hand with the ratcheting tool or just with an open-end wrench. These do get extremely tight, so don't over tighten it. You want to tighten it enough to where when you yank on the silicone coupler, the lip stays put where it is on the throttle body and it doesn't come off. Once you get to that point, tighten it maybe another half turn or a full turn and you should be good to go, and don't tighten it any more than that. Now you want to grab your aluminum mandrel bent pipe. The silicone coupler is going to be ovaled because it's on the oval mouth of the throttle body. So you'll need to kind of wiggle and force this in there. Make sure you get your pipe far enough in that the bead that's rolled on the end of it, this is the bead right here, the little raised lip, that the bead is about, I would say, an inch or so in. That way, when you've got your T-bolt clamp on here, the T-bolt clamp is not on the bead being tightened, it's adjacent to the bead on the end of the coupler. So let's get that on, and then we'll slide our T-bolt on there. Now we've got both of our T-bolt clamps on. For this one here, I pointed it down just to keep the stud that protrudes out of the way. Got my flame arrestor on, and just like this side, you want to make sure that the lip of the flame arrestor that slides over the pipe is about an inch past the end of the pipe, so that we're tightening our clamp adjacent to the bead rolled on the end of the pipe, not on top of it. And as you can see now, this thing is very nice and firm and tight. We've got good clamping force where we really need it with the T-bolt clamps, and we've got a good stainless clamp here on the flame arrestor, and we've got it positioned to where we have plenty of room to any of the brackets and pipes and fittings on our engine. No matter how much this vibrates, it's not going to touch anything. And that's it. That is our performance air intake system for the Volvo Penta 8.2 GSi. This should help us pick up a few extra horsepower along with the captain's call exhaust that we've already got on this boat. And it'll help quiet down that air sucking sound as well with most of these motors, since they have the flame arrestor directly on the throttle body and no muffling or anything in the intake path. You get that little bit of whooshing sound, the air sucking sound, when you're cruising along around 2,000 to 3,500 RPM that most people are used to that have these motors. So it'll help quiet that down a little bit, pick up a few extra horsepower and maybe some top end speed, and looks a heck of a lot better as well, and will help your engine breathe easier.